Hey, I'm Nate Charles, and welcome back to the Rule of Law Brief. Most people watching this probably don't even know what Stars and Stripes is, and unfortunately, that ignorance is part of why this current situation with Stars and Stripes is so dangerous. Stars and Stripes is not just some military newspaper. It was founded in 1861 during the Civil War by Union troops. It has been continuously published since World War II. It covered D-Day, Iwo Jima, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. It published the first printing of the American flag being raised over Iwo Jima. American soldiers read about Hitler's death in Stars and Stripes. And for most of its modern existence, Stars and Stripes has had something unusual within the Department of Defense, and critically important. It was editorially independent. That independence wasn't symbolic. It was protected by Congress and formal DoD regulations. Those rules explicitly required free flow of news, barred censorship, mandated civilian editorial leadership, and grounded the paper in First Amendment principles, even though it served a military readership. That independence is now gone. Last week, the Pentagon announced that it is taking direct control over editorial decision-making at Stars and Stripes. Civilian leadership is being sidelined. Outside wire reporting, like the Associated Press, is being eliminated. Pentagon-generated material will now make up as much as half the content. The paper will be custom-tailored to warfighters, quote-unquote, with a focus on warfighting, lethality, and all things military, whatever that is. Now, let's be very clear about what this is not. It's not about cost saving, and it's not about modernization. It's about wokeness. Some people will say, who cares? Nobody reads newspapers anymore. This is a niche outlet with a very limited circulation. That argument is flawed in the sense that it's not how many people read Stars and Stripes, it's who reads Stars and Stripes. Stars and Stripes is disproportionately read by deployed service members. People stationed overseas in isolated and austere environments, often with limited or no access to American media, unreliable internet connections, or restricted communications altogether. I have been that person many times. When you're deployed, Stars and Stripes isn't just another news source. It becomes the reference point in some instances. And it was trusted precisely because it was not Pentagon propaganda. It covered uncomfortable stories. It held commanders accountable. That credibility is why troops read it and believed it. Now, imagine replacing that with administration-controlled messaging, piped directly into a captive audience of people who are trained, armed, and legally authorized to use violence on behalf of the United States. That is not abstract. That is not hypothetical. So how did this happen? On January 15th, 2026, the Department of Defense quietly published a final rule in the Federal Register eliminating 32 CFR Part 246, the regulations that govern Stars and Stripes operations. That regulation had been in place since 1994. Its entire purpose was to operationalize Congress's intent that Stars and Stripes be editorially independent and insulated from command influence. The Pentagon did not ask for any sort of statute to be repealed. It did not go to Congress for anything, and there was no real public debate about this. DoD simply declared the regulation unnecessary, labeled it purely internal, and removed it on the theory that it imposed no burden to the public. That framing is deeply misleading and intentionally so, because a CFR regulation has legal force. A DoD directive does not. Directives can be rewritten, ignored, overridden internally, without notice, without comment, and without judicial review. By stripping Stars and Stripes out of the Code of Federal Regulations, the Pentagon didn't just modernize anything. It downgraded enforceable independence into revocable permission. Once the regulation was gone, editorial independence stopped being a legal requirement and became a policy preference, and one that could be overridden at a moment's notice if it became inconvenient. And to put this in context, this is all happening under an administration that has systematically attacked the press, purged independent journalists from the Pentagon Press Corps, sought to shut down Voice of America and Radio Free Europe, and is now redeploying troops from overseas into American cities. When you combine all those facts, a very dark picture emerges. This is how authoritarianism works. To overthrow a country, you don't need mass propaganda for the general public. You only need mass propaganda for a targeted audience who carry weapons, follow orders, and operate in rigid command hierarchies. History is unambiguous on this point. I don't make Nazi comparisons casually, but I've been doing it more and more with regard to this administration. And this is yet another one that is structurally accurate. Joseph Goebbels did not focus his efforts on persuading every German civilian. He focused relentlessly on the Wehrmacht. He understood that controlling the information environment of soldiers was decisive. That is what this is. Press freedom groups, journalists, and even the editor-in-chief of Stars and Stripes have warned that this move turns an independent newsroom into a political mouthpiece, in direct violation of both the First Amendment and Congress's clear intent. This is not a culture war sideshow. This is about civil military relations, constitutional guardrails, and whether the United States maintains the internal restraints that prevent democracy from sliding into something far worse. This matters, even if you have never read Stars and Stripes in your life.